I'm talking senior managers of a company probably worth $40 billion, maybe more, reach out to us from TikTok from that video. Like, it's wild, dude.
Oh, and you guys are the experts in that.
I'll put this into perspective. We pushed back on this with the biggest mining organization in the entire world, and we just said no, flat out no.
You were one of the few companies that was pretty early on AI, bringing up everywhere now, but you were kind of there at the forefront.
The speed at which AI has moved is crazy. We have some things up our sleeve that still put our quality in terms of like transcription and stuff like that ahead of everybody.
Yeah, I think I read, was it 97% accuracy? Even if it's like super noisy and you're on a construction site. Can you tell us the secret sauce behind that?
Way, man.
Today I'm joined by the one and only David Press, co-founder of Risk Talk, the voice-powered platform that's making construction sites safer. We'll talk about how their scrappy MVP made safety reporting accessible for frontline workers, why their product mantra is "Would Frankie use it?" and the moment where they refused to bend to a big enterprise customer, even though it meant walking away from a deal. David also shares his lessons on resilience, design empathy, and the discipline that it takes to build impact at scale. Let's jump into it. Before we jump in, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. I genuinely believe in creating a world with more founders and sincerely believe that the tips and lessons that the founders are sharing with you will help you to either start or grow your own business, whatever stage you're at. That said, I'm effectively treating this as a startup. I'm trying to grow this podcast, and the free thing that you can do to help me today, if you found anything valuable, is to subscribe, follow this podcast. I've always found it really cringy when other creators say this, but now that I'm in the position, I totally get it. It would mean the world. Thank you. Hey, welcome to the More Founders Show with me, Dave Berner. Today, my guest is David Press from Risk Talk. He launched his first econ venture at 17 and is now co-founder of Risk Talk, which is using voice to make construction sites safer. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me on the show. Mate, you want to jump in sales, or you pretty much nailed it? So.
No, I'd love to hear a bit more about Risk Talk in your own words.
Yeah, look, we're a product that makes reporting safety activity, typically risk assessments, but it could be incident reporting, stuff like that. We make it super easy for the frontline, basically the opposite of what 99% of software is done historically. We're sort of focused really intently on those frontline guys and worry about the managers and their graphs sort of after that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're the ones that are actually in the firing line, right? That's
exactly. Yeah,
awesome. And so you've been going since 2016?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. We ideated 2016 and incorporated a little business, but didn't really go live. Didn't really do it properly until about 2019.
And so at what stage do you reckon that you would call it an MVP, I guess?
About 2019 would have been when I could show someone and say, look, what do you think of this little proof of concept or whatever? And then, 2019 through 2020, we basically rebuilt that MVP into something that we could actually sell.
Yeah. Well, what did the MVP look like?
Just really poor user interfaces, but enough that you could really show people what we meant by our,
But it was still like a voice-powered.
Yeah, we're still fully functioning. Yeah. Just a little bit rough.
Yeah. Did you manage to get any customers off the back of it?
No, I would say the customers would all the paying customers would be on the new platform, or the subsequent one. Maybe one early one is probably paying us, I don't know, $20 or something. Yeah. But it was pretty rough, man. And then 2020, we sort of had something that was much more polished and started getting customers straight away.
Yeah, awesome. What did you use to put that MVP together? Did you build it?
Yeah, we built it. So I had an agency, consulting / agency business before Risk Talk, and then so I had a team. So we just built it and basically I project managed it, did as little coding as possible, as I prefer these days to have done, which is safer for everybody, trust me. So we had a team and we just built it in a really lightweight MVC framework, and I think it was originally not React Native, the other one that was around at the time that was like a hybrid. What was it
It was
called again now?
Flutter? No.
No, before Flutter. I forgot what it was called.
Capacitor? No. Ionic?
Yeah, Ionic. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Ionic was the original framework, and then we swapped out to React Native pretty quickly.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And so you then sort of use that to open up some early conversations with potential customers?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So the other founder, Stuart Farquharson, he's ex-industry, so he's our sort of, SME or whatever you want to call him. And so he had network, which was really helpful. So we could get some traction pretty early with network, but it's one of those things with a startup. You think that everyone that you know is going to love it and jump on it, but that's not how it works in reality. It's the biggest trap, I think, for any business owner, really. You open a cafe, think all your mates will come and buy a coffee, but after week 2...
They get one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right. So it's a bit like that, but we definitely got some good eyes, like senior managers got their eyes over it, which gave us sort of some validation early, which was really, really important.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so those first 10 customers, or how did you go about getting those first 10? Well, first one. Actually, yeah, what was the first one?
Such a grind, man. Well, the first one was this geotech company that does geotech drilling, if you're ever familiar with it. Basically, you'll go out and drill areas before any sort of major works gets done on the area, just to make sure that it's safe and so on. Actually, there's a bit of a story to this guy. They had this worker called Frankie, and he just tech adverse is the easiest way to explain it. Like when we were trying to get him to use the product, we were getting support requests like asking what's his Apple password? You could download the app. So like that level of tech sort of literacy, and so it actually framed how we built the product from then on. We had this saying called like, "Could Frankie use it?"
That's so good.
And so, like the design of our interface, that was the joke. Every time we made a change, it was like, "Would Frankie get this?" Like, so the size of the big button and stuff. And then, so that was our first customer, and then we went on from there into some relatively small like utility sort of maintenance contractors, like people who are contracting out to construction companies or other utilities or whatever. And then, we ended up landing one of the water utilities was of one of our first enterprise customers. Yeah. And then once you get a few logos, it gets easier and easier, Like
it takes that. That trust takes it. I mean, that's definitely one of the things we struggled with early on. It's like you're 6 months in and you're knocking on doors and like, well, do we really want to trust you with our front door when you've been around for 6 months? So I guess it would have probably similar for you guys. It takes a while to build that trust.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's for us, we had to create our own market in some strange way. Like the idea that voice was a thing for safety and reporting, it's a really compliance driven world. Sadly in some ways, but it is still a compliance world, and this idea that they could even do it. Back then, Amazon Alexa and Google Home and so on, they weren't really in yet. It was just fringe people, early adopters had it and that was about it. And then slowly as people started trusting us, seeing other logos, but also just the macro environment, like all of a sudden every second home's got, a Ring doorbell or a Google Home, whatever it is, just getting more familiar with voice and it really helped us.
Yeah, so what sort of time period are you looking over? Do you think it took before you stopped getting those trust questions on sales calls?
Yeah, pretty early. The trust questions weren't necessarily about our product so much, like those kind of went away relatively quickly. The questions became more around like woodworkers, like more the user feedback, like would the users trust the product? Not necessarily would our company still exist or would we be ethical or whatever. It was more about would our customers being the frontline worker, would those frontline workers adopt a product that was, recording their voice fundamentally.
Yeah, makes sense. So then you moved on from the MVP, you got those early customers, and you moved on to a React native stack, and that's kind of what you would classify as your true
Yeah.
MVP at that point. How did you decide what should go into that MVP? Because I imagine there's so much to risk talk that how did you distill it down to be a true MVP?
What's interesting is that the core of our product is virtually identical to the MVP, even the MVP from before we rebuilt it. I mean, we had a really good idea as to what we wanted to build, and we knew that you can't go into a company where they're dealing with safety related things and have something that's half baked. Like it had to do what we said it would do, and what we said it would do would basically replace most of what the field workers have to deal with, typically like a paper form or like some paper form that they digitized that's still equally shit. Um, a- and yeah, we knew early it was just and tech back then especially tech was moving so fast. Like when we talk about AI moving fast now, and it seriously is, but like back then, even just React Native, as an example, was so fringe when we first built the MVP to being the most used stack in the world, 2 years later. Like, it was wild.
Did that cause
It
any headaches in terms of adopting it early and then I guess new versions coming out?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, early the versions coming out pretty quick, and our small team, not VC backed, you're just struggling. You're trying so hard to fix bugs, make the product perfect, come out with new features, make them better, and at the same time, you've got frameworks getting updated constantly and breaking changes or whatever. And also, voice wasn't big then, so like there weren't libraries that just worked off the shelf for what we did, in the React world. So yeah, it was hard. It was really challenging. We built some pretty cool stuff around the voice thing for React. Even like, for example, something as simple as a waveform to show in a UI. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't get that to work well back in the day with a library. Like
Mhm.
I'm sure it's easy now. I haven't looked, but
Yep.
it was tough back then, right?
Yeah. That's so cool. Would you still use, if you were to rebuild it today, would you use the same technology or would you look at, I guess, going native like a Swift, Android?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'd probably stick with either Flutter or React Native again. I think we don't see too much downside in what we do by being, true native versus that hybrid native type. Yeah, no, I wouldn't change much, I don't think.
Okay. Any issues with like app stores or kind of getting it through there in those earlier days before it was as mainstream?
To be honest, not as bad as I probably made it out to sound back then. Back then it was everything, right? You were so desperate. If you get knocked back with something silly, I think all the stuff that we got knocked back for in the first version, was pretty minor. Just and a little bit of inexperience on my behalf, as my sort of head of tech role, just not realizing that certain things were actually critical in Apple's eyes. Never had an issue with Android at any point, but Apple, just Apple being Apple, it was challenging.
Yeah. And you were, I guess, one of the few companies that was pretty early on AI compared to, they're springing up everywhere now, but you were kind of there at the forefront. How has that changed, I guess, from your
It,
first pass to now?
yeah, look, it's a really interesting one. Look, it's obviously dramatically different now. The moat that we had perhaps at the start is smaller than perhaps it is now. But we just and with tech, as you know, like code's replicable. Like unless you've got something that you can truly defend with a patent, which is really challenging in our space. So, we always knew that at some point you'd going to have that competitive tension or competitors coming into the market, but um, the speed at which AI has moved is crazy. We have some things up our sleeve that happen behind the scenes in our product that still put our quality in terms of like transcription and stuff like that ahead of everybody.
Yeah, I think I read, was it 97% accuracy, even if
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
crazy.
super noisy and you're on a
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
construction site. Can you
Yeah.
can
So
you tell us the secret sauce behind that?
no way, man. No way. And the crazy thing about that was that it came out of necessity. And I can't go into it too much because it literally is a really critical part of what we do. But uh, it came out of necessity. It wasn't something that I actively did thinking it would become our secret sauce, but yeah, it has. Yeah, that the voice thing's wild. So we sat in an ore processing facility on a mine site, which is very, very loud. And, you couldn't hear, we could be standing a few feet from each other. We wouldn't be able to hear each other. And we run a activity in wrist talk in that environment. It still came out 97% or more actually that day. So like, it is wild, the tech and the way that AI has moved. Noise cancelling in devices, stuff like that has just got so much better.
So is it quite a lot of kind of on-site testing to validate that then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we ran some tests, like standing next to people grinding and welding pipes and real heavy industry type work. And, scary moments because I'm pretty sure we did both of those in front of customers. Like, because we can't just walk onto someone's site. And it's hard to replicate heavy industry noise without walking into someone's site. So, those were interesting moments in the journey.
Yeah. Were there any like massive backfires where it just didn't?
No, never.
No?
Never.
Wow.
None. Thankfully.
Yeah. Because live demos are sort of infamous for going south.
Oh, mate. So what's crazy now is we have them in the reasoning models that we have, so that we have some AI agent style reasoning model features in the product now, and basically you can ask it anything about your own data, right? Which is like a pretty classical use case for this sort of thing. And so you'll be on a demo and a customer will say, "Can I ask this?" And you'll just hope that it works and do it on the fly, And actually, so far, every result's been mind-blowingly good. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what were the hardest design? You sort of touched on it, I think, earlier, but the kind of hardest design decisions, I suppose a lot of the time you're kind of playing it down to the least technical person on site. What did that, from a design decision perspective?
We had these, so we've got three things that we call our values fundamentally, but in terms of product, I mean, so anything that goes into our mobile application has to be more engaging, more efficient, or more intuitive. Okay. So with those sort of guiding principles, or, whatever you want to call them, we live by those in terms of product development. So that makes it a little bit easier for us. Like the struggles that you have on those decisions and building the product, if you have really strong guiding principles, this is just a personal opinion, it makes that part easier because you can just put every single idea through that lens, and if it passes them, then happy days, we can look at putting them in. But yeah, design was tough, and it actually wasn't necessarily UI design, but more like product design. We have this thing in our product where it's actually not as customizable as people might expect from a product like ours, and we had to make this call really, really early, from day one early. And Stuart had mentioned to us, myself and the rest of the team, how important it was that we didn't just become another shit experience for frontline workers. It had to be better, transformational for them. And so we don't allow customers to go and add in 5 more questions. So if you think about a form building product, you can just add in more and more checklists and more. We don't do that. And it's very, very intentional. Our view was that historically safety managers and just businesses in general, if they had an incident or something went wrong, or there was an audit and something was found, then they would just add another thing for the field worker. And it always filters down to the field worker, which is incredibly inequitable.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about safety, you're trying to engage people to keep them safe. Fundamentally, that's the key of everything, right? But somehow it became okay to add 15 more checklists to this safety form that's supposed to keep them safe.
And the more that's on there, the more they're going to gloss through it or just...
Yeah, you just disengage with it. Yeah. And once you've disengaged with it once, twice, 3 times, then you're disengaged forever, right? You're done. So we just really, really strongly pushed back on that. And, I'll put this into perspective. We pushed back on this with the biggest mining organization in the entire world. Who asked for another question. We just said no, flat out no. But once you explain the values that drive that decision-making on our side, they understand why. So, we're going to add a checklist that 60,000 people have to fill out every day, so that 10 managers can have a graph that makes zero sense, right? Like, uh, and if it doesn't change the decision making in the field, then why would you do it? So that part was the hardest decision I think we made.
I was going to ask when and how you came up with those values, guiding principles.
Like as close to day one as I can remember. I can't remember exactly the moment, but it was instilled largely from Stuart, who's that subject matter expert. He's very, very passionate about safety not being shit for field workers, or frontline, whatever you want to call, the people who are actually at risk. Safety, if you think about IT, safety, you think about legal, most of these divisions of companies, especially heavy industry, they are supposed to be services that enable the work that makes the money. So safety should not be impeding. We should be assisting and, making it as easy as possible for these people to do their work as safely as possible, not having 15 check boxes, covering art for 3 managers up the line. So it was pretty obvious that Stu's passion, about that was really clear. And, I haven't come from heavy industry. I've not come from safety. So it was easy for me to adopt those.
Yes. Yeah.
It became infinitely easier once I'd seen how shit it actually was for everybody.
Yeah.
And I met I saw the first form and I was like, holy shit, that's got to be a jolly play. So then I became very passionate about it, almost immediately. So, it became quite easy, like early day one type values and guiding principles. And then that just became stronger and stronger. And then once we got validation from customers that we were right, it became super easy, and it becomes easier to have those conversations because we can just be like, mate, there's literally hundreds of other companies who don't have a problem with this.
Yeah.
And in fact, have seen massive improvements in performance. So, whatever it is you're asking us to do is not valid.
Yeah. Oh, and you guys are the experts in that, right? That's what you've been.
Yeah, especially voice, right? Like the voice part of it, because it does transform the way people risk manage. You're not just ticking boxes on a form. So we are in a position to be able to say to customers, look, this works and this is why it works and this is how it works and all the reasons as to why it's effective. And they tend to listen now, whereas before you had to really try to sell the shit out.
It's definitely harder on those first 10, I imagine, to now. And once, you've got the companies that are bigger than the ones you're selling to, you're like, well, if it's all right for them, then it should be okay for you.
Exactly right.
Get that validation. Yeah, that's great. Do you have other values outside of product development?
Yeah, I mean, always the classic, don't fuck your customer.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, and that applies to your employees as well. Probably more so to your employees, obviously. Authenticism, we don't have our values on a wall. I'm not in, this sounds a bit harsh and I don't mean it to be, but we're not either an enterprise customer that puts their values on the wall, that typical big company, but we're also not in that sort of VC world where you have a lot of money, you're trying to attract talent with your values and stuff. We don't do that either. And we really value authenticism, people who care, good people. And we try to, when we're interviewing, we try to look for that, those values aligned, and even in customers, that you're doing the same with customers at the end of the day as well. Are these customers going to be treating their staff like shit and are going to use our tool against their staff, stuff like that. So authenticism and just don't screw people over. They're probably the two simplest ones. Yeah.
How big is the team now?
Just shy of 20 people.
Yeah, right. It's growing.
So that's across the globe in different areas, mostly technical, and a little bit, like compliant. You start going down the ISO 27000 path, the SOC part, so you pick up compliance type roles and all those sorts of things. So in terms of the product and the customer-facing teams, it's still quite small. I think it's 4 of us who are customer-facing, and then the rest are.
Yeah, so you're still very, very much hands-on?
Getting a little bit. I'm hands-on when it's, eventually the tech teams have to meet at some point, whether security or integration, but typically then. But for anything enterprise, like of significant scale, I'm going to be on the call most of the time, just to answer those questions up front. And my history has a little bit of business and other things in the background as well, so I can sort of have conversations in that business world relatively comfortably, which also helps.
Yeah. So you've got a global team. So you're also providing Risktalk as a service globally to sites around the world?
Mate. Have more customers overseas than we do in Australia now.
Wow.
A lot of that had to do with some sales channel partners and a few other things. But yeah, I mean, we work, I think at last count, we were joking around last week about the scale of some of the customers. And when we have, I think two or three of the top 5 biggest mining orgs customers in some way, shape or form. We now have one of the biggest oil and gas companies in the world as a customer, or that energy space. Yeah, customers, it's wild. And once you go overseas, you realize just how small Australia is.
Yeah. Was
it's
there a
right.
tipping point when you decided, all right, now it's time to take this international, or?
No, not really. Pretty early for us, mate. We built, voice enables multi-language and multilingual very, very well. So we went pretty early with that feature. It didn't really go far in terms of its use until we landed a couple of American customers where they had a lot of Spanish-speaking workers. That really drove that sort of intent from us to start looking there. And I think we'd had a bit of a look in Indonesia with a big mining org, another multinational, and they wanted people to be able to speak their native language in Indonesia and potentially have that translated back to English for the parent company or the head office and so on. So yeah, pretty early, man, with the global sort of look. Yeah.
Does that mean the product itself inside is also translated?
Yeah. So like if you were to pick up the product right now and you were a multinational, you could go into a setting and say, turn on these languages. And when you turn those languages on, you even have the option as like a little JSON editor thing that you could go and change any of the language. So we don't presume that we know all languages as good as the locals do. So they can change some of those and tweak the settings. And basically any worker on your product, in your team could go into their profile and just select whatever language they want. And
so cool.
Away they go. Yeah.
Could they use that to get around the questions and set them in the JSON, or no? I assume that would be.
So the questions are also configurable for multi-language, and like basically every little variable is multi-language and customizable. We're not just using a static JSON file for every language. Like those are editable. Some of them are dynamically like in database, and some of them are in a JSON.
That's awesome, because it's such a pain to
right.
retrofit down the track. It's just such a headache.
No.
That it just ends up in the later basket. I mean, even for us, all of our external customer facing screens are translatable, but inside the product itself it's not. And I think we're just too far down that road now to go and backport it. But I think the customer facing ones are the most important for us. And we have a similar approach to like JSON and allow it to all be completely customized. But yeah, hats off for recognizing that early.
We have a couple. I mean, we did it for the frontline, right? What I mean by that is the focus on the language thing was predominantly in the mobile app. Mm-hmm. The dashboard is still predominantly English, but the reporting, the artifact that the user creates out in the field that can be visualized or seen in the dashboard, that's also translatable. So all the content that users are creating is translatable or whatever language you want. But our menus are still in English in the dashboard. We haven't gone that far. The low value, I think, for us at the moment. We might look at it later. Who knows?
Yeah. And I guess that has then enabled you to spread internationally way quicker. Yep. So is that something you would recommend to founders now, kind of kicking off a new product, that they think about it?
Absolutely. Think about it like in your architecture, but don't necessarily pull the trigger on releasing it. But you don't want to be having to redo your architecture because you didn't think about it later. It is a pain in the ass. There's no way around it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially I mean, I've seen some kind of AI translators but I don't know how hit and miss they are. Like I've definitely seen some strange translations come out of it. Like when you're trying to do that initial seed data, I guess, for all the languages. I mean, we literally went out and just canvassed for friends, family, anyone that we could find that knew a language to get that initial seed data together, because it felt like you just couldn't necessarily trust what was going to come out of AI. And
Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah.
it's probably way better now though than it was back then.
It is interesting, man. I don't want to reveal too much because again, it's a little bit of a secret sauce type thing. But we were doing a bit of a POC for a Saudi-based, really large, multinational construction company who weren't Saudi but were working in Saudi, and a lot of the workers are from sort of South Asia subcontinent, like that sort of general area. So we were asked to do Urdu, which is the Pakistani sort of main language in Pakistan, and Hindi and some others, and Tagalog, Philippines was another one. And so I created a script, right? And I hop out to one of the, freelance style websites, just trying to find people that spoke those languages, and gave them the script, and they used our product like anyone would, on an everyday basis, and then basically ran through with our English script, but in the local language. And there are languages where they just don't translate back.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
there are terms that just don't exist, that are not, blah, blah, blah. So, we come back, and the first version was pretty average. But, we got through it, man. And now it's like spot on.
Yeah, that's it. Especially if you've got it structured in a way that they can update the JSON or feed back to you.
Well, no, dude, I mean like user generated data. I mean like the voice recording. Yeah. So like we don't have any control at that point. Like there's no there's no JSON file I can just go key value fair on. So I just remember thinking, oh no, we've promised this customer that we can do these languages, and then the result wasn't great, but we got through it, man. And then I won't. Yeah, as I said, I'm not going to reveal how. Not in this day and age. But yeah, it was a really, really good result in the end.
Yeah, it's so good.
A bit challenging though. Yeah.
I wanted to touch a little bit on Stuart as well. So he's your co-founder.
Yeah.
I'd love to dig into how you guys met.
Yeah, Stu's one of life's sort of legends that you don't meet too many Stuarts, I don't think, in life. And so we were friends before this, and it's like Stuart was our first grade cricket captain when I was 18. Ripping, absolute gun at everything he does. Every sport he participates in, just kills it. Very frustrating for the rest of the crew. But a ripping bloke, everyone loves him. A great dude. And then, he was living in Sydney. I was still in Perth. And he'd sort of worked his way from safety and mining, typical WA boy. I think he was doing blasting up on the mine sites, and then he did a thesis in blasting, so he was pretty heavily involved in heavy industry, and then he went into safety and so on. So he ended up working in sort of civil work, transport, so I think he did Parramatta Light Rail. He was pretty heavily involved in that.
Yeah.
So for Transport New South Wales, and then he went into utilities work with one of the major providers, I think maybe Downer, and like the NBN rollout, for example, was under him from a safety perspective. And then I think he just heard enough from feedback from field workers where he was like, okay, I've got this idea, and the idea came from a field worker saying, oh, Stu, this is fucking shit. Why can't I just talk about it? Why are you giving me this form? You asked me to talk about it, then you asked me to fill out a form. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And that was sort of the light bulb moment. He came back to Perth, and we were catching up. I think we'd either been at cricket or we'd been at the gym or something like that, some sort of like exercise related thing. And in the car on the way back, we were alone, and he just said, hey, I got this idea. What do you think? You understand tech a bit. And man, I think I thought about it for about 15 minutes and was like, I'm in. Like it just made so much sense, even without knowing the industry and stuff. I think I'd just got like some voice related stuff in my house, and like my sister all had, like everyone in the family sort of had some voice stuff in the house, and it just made sense straight away. And
so what's the kind of split between you guys? I guess you're, in a classic sense, the technical co-founder and the...
So technical for me, and I bring in some other stuff. I worked in banking a long time ago, and just in general, like I had my own businesses for a long time, and all small, but after doing banking and finance, you kind of get a pretty decent grasp on business in general, just investing and so it kind of brought that side of it, the technical plus the business and finance side, and then Stuart absolutely like that subject matter expert. He was a very senior safety manager. I think he had 20 something or 20 reports through to him. 20 safety managers reporting to him. Like that's a pretty senior role. At a relatively young age as well. And then. So Stuart's very, very customer facing. He's probably one of the best relationship builders I know. He very, very good at keeping in touch with people, making sure that people are doing well, and people generally love him. And so he's great. He got the subject matter expert. He knows how to build a relationship. So been instrumental in getting some pretty big enterprise customers.
Dream partner.
Yeah, mate. We never argue. I can't think of a time.
Yeah, right.
I'm not even joking here. I can't think of a time we've had an argument. And I can't think of a time where tension has got to the point where it was bad. Like there's obviously times when you feel frustrated about things, but it's never been bad. Yeah. It has been a dream. I used to say when before this, I would say to my other friends, "There's no fucking way I'll ever go into business with a friend."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is the classic advice, isn't it?
And it was my mantra generally. And then it only takes one good idea for you to forget about your mantra.
Well, and it's the right friend, isn't it? That's the kind of part of that. What advice would you have for somebody, I guess, a technical founder at the moment that is looking for their other half?
Oh, that's a hard one. See, I mean, it's hard for a technical founder to find the other half, I think, because you have to find someone who's both a good person and a good co-founder, but also has a good idea, because it's not normal that the tech founder has the idea. I mean, yeah, normally it's a subject matter expert. If you're selling a tech product to other techies, then that's a whole different story. But yeah, I mean, I've made this comment over the journey. Like, good ideas are not a dime a dozen. Like, they are very, very, very hard to come across. And I got extremely lucky. I don't actually have an answer for you directly. I don't really know. I got lucky, man. Yeah.
It's amazing the amount of, I was speaking to a lot of technical founders that then, they do have the idea, and then they can obviously execute and build it, but then have no idea how to take it to market. That seemed, selling and marketing seem to be the huge.
It's come up a couple of times in really recent time. I'd like to be able to talk more about this specific one that I'm thinking of. I can't at the moment, just due to disclosure stuff. But yeah, it is a tough one if you don't have that innate ability to sell. I mean, we are again pretty lucky. Like, both founders can sell.
So you strike me as a technical founder that can sell.
Yeah. I've never had it. This has never been it. I mean, I can vividly remember the first time I had to go a pitch call without Stu. That was terrifying. Like, just the idea that some safety nerd or someone would just call me out on something I said and I couldn't answer was terrifying.
Yeah.
But in my finance roles or banking roles previously, I'd had extremely good sales training, first of all, but very, very high performing in those roles. So I have zero concerns, worries about selling. So that again makes it a little bit unique. We're very lucky again in that. So I'm probably weaker tech than most tech founders, and not probably, like categorically, I'm a weaker tech founder, but know enough to get it done and generally make the right decisions. But yeah, it's pretty unique that someone can sell and do the tech side. Like, very lucky. Yeah.
True unicorn.
No, yeah. I mean, I still make different mistakes on both fronts. I'm not good, jack of all type person.
Yeah. So at what point then, so you've got the two of you, you've got, you put together the MVP. When did you then start looking at, I guess, employee number one, and what were you looking for? Because I mean, you guys have that long lasting friendship. You've known each other since you were 18. Like, bringing somebody else into the fold must have been a little bit unnerving, and yeah, I'd love to hear a bit about that.
Look, we sort of split our hiring mentality down two paths. Like, I hope this doesn't sound wrong because it's not how I mean it, but the tech related hires are relatively easy in the scheme of things for us. We have very good managers who help us, find talent, vet talent, manage them, so on. So like that part's relatively simple. But the ones that are customer facing is really hard, like really, really hard. So we got, we only have a small number. There's only a couple of them, right? So one of them
Sales
is,
support.
yeah, sales and BD at like one of them's very senior, and kind of fractional, but probably a bit more than fractional. He like ex Revolut, and a handful of others, so very well skilled and great at his job. But then we hired a girl, Cindy, who actually Ross and Ev have met from your side, since she's on the other side of the country. And are you familiar with the guys at Early Work?
No, I'm
Okay, so Early Work we're a small startup that, like, recruitment based. It's like a blend between traditional recruitment and tech, and a training model. It's kind of an interesting model. So we kind of jumped into that. You know me relatively well from our dealings with Kai. Like, if I think that idea is pretty good, I'm probably going to give it a go and take the risk. Like, in early adoption, I'm pretty happy to jump into things. So we jumped in with those guys pretty early, and I think we didn't hire the first round of candidates they sent us, and then we waited a few months and we hired on the second lot. And we found our own little unicorn, which is like wild. Cindy, she'll probably hear this and she'll be horrified, but she's just bonding into an absolute weapon, and like culturally just the perfect fit. I think I remember we asked her a question in the interview. It was like, if you're really struggling after a month or 2 months, 3 months or whatever, and you're not hitting target or you're not getting what you want out of it, like, what are you going to do? And I think I may get this wrong. I'm not going to do it verbatim, but it was along the lines of like, I'm just going to fucking work really, like, I'm just going to knock them down twice as hard or 3 times. I just remember Stuart and I looking at each other being like, I think we found our person. Like, it was the first one who was like authentically, she comes from country, Victoria, just hard worker. She's been taught hard work by her parents, who clearly worked very, very hard to provide for her family and stuff. And yeah, so we nailed that by so we're striking at 100% at the moment, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we got very lucky. We got Cindy starting to nail like meetings with CEOs of listed enterprise mining companies, and she's 23 years old. It's pretty wild. Like, it's
Yeah, that's
pretty
so
good.
good. So was it on the engineering side that you hired first?
Yeah, definitely. A tech, 100%. Yeah. So we've had a tech team for quite a while, same people for a really long time. And been super loyal. They're wonderful people. So, we got staff all through predominantly Asia, in the tech space, and not just your typical, in fact, very little to none in India, if, the traditional place. But yeah, it's been pretty cool. I travel over to see them face to face, and we do team building, and they're wonderful people, all of them. And yeah, so we hired out. I had staff from my previous agency consulting business, so it wasn't difficult for us. Like, that, probably the easiest decision we had to make was that.
Yeah. And do you kind of lead the product vision and direction, or do the engineers also get involved in what does that process look like for, say, a new feature that's being built out?
Good question. Traditionally, it's been me. Yeah, product and techs. My formal role, if we're having one, we hate roles. Like, we hate them. But mine is head of tech and product, right? So Stuart will often have the subject matter idea, and then I will productize it, however we want to, But in more recent times, as some of the engineers that we've hired, some of them were juniors when we got them, maybe almost fresh out of uni. They've built confidence, and now they're able to help guide us in product, which is super cool, especially in this sort of AI space. So we're starting to get to that level now, which is great, really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just grown huge since then to now. Do you feel like AI is leverage what's the word? Leveling the playing field somewhat
Um,
in terms of competition.
I think, yeah, like the initial, I guess, fear for us would be that like it's going to become easier now for people to build what has been really challenging for us. Uh, which is like, to be honest, it's like a frustration internally. You know, you've we ground so hard and you do so much, and then a tech thing comes out that makes it far easier to do what we have had to struggle through. So, uh, but you just can't. That's business, and you can't think like that. So we just basically look at ourselves as doubling down. I see it as a massive opportunity for us. We are in a really unique position because AI relies heavily on high quality data sets and annotated data and so on. And being the first product to do what we do with voice and the way we did it, not just the fact that, we don't just go voice to text on a form, like we actually capture the audio and we have that.
Oh, cool.
So that gives us this enormous library of data.
You got 9 years worth, pretty much.
Mate, can you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's insane how many audio files we have, and they're directly related to health and safety and risk and so on. So we're in a unique position in terms of AI and so on. We're also in a unique position because we feel that safety software in general, actually just software that's related to field workers in general, is so poorly done. Like still to this day, the software companies sell to management because the management has the budget and the purse strings, right? And they make the decision. But the crazy thing in safety is that they're buying a product that impacts, magnitudes more people out in the field. But all the software companies know who they're selling to, so they make the sales pitch and the product make the manager's job easier. But then the mobile solution, the mobility solution is junk. So our values around that and our guiding principles and all those things that, whatever jargon you want to call, but the things that make Risk Talk what it is, those things, they're so strong for us that they kind of help us navigate this competitive landscape a bit, because no one else is thinking the way we think still. Everyone's still thinking like, how do I sell to this manager? Whereas, slowly those managers are looking at their incident data and wondering why nothing's changed, but they've just spent $500,000 on this safety product for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, nothing's changed because the product's shit. And I hate, it's harsh on our competitive or substitute price or whatever you want to call them, but that is the reality. Field workers hate that shit. You're taking a form they hate, you're digitizing it. You've just digitized a problem. You haven't fixed anything, right? Like, you've not transformed anything. It's not digital transformation. It's like going paperless. They're not the same thing. So I look at it personally that the AI matched with our values and the way we are gives us a huge opportunity, because we're just going to make our product better and better and better, and our competitors will still just be lagging behind on this fundamental shift in the way you should be treating your workers with the tools that you give them. So that for us, like, I'm not fearful of it in the same way I was perhaps, I don't know, a year ago.
Yeah. Do you find, I guess, where having that real focus on the end user, like the site worker, I'm not sure how frequently a site worker would move between jobs or companies, but that they would then move somewhere else and be like, oh, I was using Risk Talk, you guys should really think about it.
Yeah, 100%, dude. It happens almost all the time. Like, it's actually often the managers who shift a lot in the safety space, especially. So that happens a lot. We'll get leads that are organically coming from that person shifting work or whatever. But, I recently had a guy who worked at one of the huge mining orgs in Australia that shifted to the other huge mining org in Australia and reached out to us and said, quite literally, man, I feel like I'm in the dark ages. I've just come from there where we used yours and I'm stuck doing this bullshit. And he's like, can we use your product on our sites? And by pure chance, I was getting phone calls from their corporate digital safety team to evaluate our product at the same time, which was wild.
Yeah.
But that does happen here, man.
Yeah,
really
that's
helpful.
so cool. Are you doing much, I guess, outbound versus inbound?
Yeah, like the last 12 months, definitely more outbound. Like the girl Cindy, who I was referring to, she does a lot of our outbound for us. really starting to nail that. Um, Look, I think you and I have privately had a couple of chats, and you even publicly have come out and said it on LinkedIn and things like that around the struggles of being a founder that needs to start doing marketing and so on. And
Yep.
um, yeah, we're in the exact same boat. You and I fundamentally, I feel exactly the way you do. I get pulled in about 50 directions, and outbound is one of those things that, not outbound, but like marketing and outbound, they go together so closely, right? Yeah, we struggle still with it. I think we're looking to fix that, but outbound is becoming more and more of where we get our deals. I would say previously it was all network, like who we knew, how we, going to events and things like that. But outbound events and that sort of organic, hey, I used it here, or so and so told me to look at this, it has become like really important for us.
Yeah.
I think marketing's the next. I think we will
Yeah. Yeah. We
accelerate.
could definitely touch on that. Was on my things I wanted to chat to you about because yeah, it's been well, I guess I'm taking my first few dainty footsteps out into that world of putting myself out there about a bit more and into the just cesspool that LinkedIn can be at times of AI generated posts that are then replied to by another AI, and it's just this like self-fulfilling.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, so tricky, but curious how you're thinking about, I guess, personal brand or whatever the
Yeah, I don't do personal brand at all, to be honest. I don't want it. I prefer to fly under the radar a little bit. I mean, I know that that is a bit counter to being, successful in what we're doing. I suspect it has to change a little bit, and I'm probably just lagging behind you a little bit in terms of that decision, to either embrace it or not. Maybe being on this podcast is probably one of the earlier steps in doing it, right? But I think when you see some of the junk that you see on LinkedIn, like taking how people can take like an everyday occurring event and then just use it to spin it into something about a business. It's like, man, bro, just say about the business. Don't give me this
yeah
bullshit. Like, I
yeah
don't need
for
this stuff.
sure.
Uh, well, look, it is interesting. I made my first post on LinkedIn in quite a while recently, just this last week. And whatever it was with the content, it worked. I think it's reached multiples of my connections number. So that's wild.
Yep.
Uh, and I've had God knows how many people reach out on the back of it and either connecting or message or whatever. So I mean, it works. You just whatever that post that and it was just referring to customer feedback that we'd had from a really big pilot. And to be fair, I think because we don't post often, or I don't post often, when you do, and it's a good one, perhaps people jump on it a bit more or whatever. But yeah, dude, I don't like titles. I don't like personal brand. I don't really.
It's yeah, such a tricky one, isn't it, when it's not a natural I had similar. I mean, I didn't get quite the same multiple as you're talking about, but definitely the first one I did for that same reason, I think got more traction. It was probably about something benign. I'm trying to be a bit more thoughtful, and if I put something out, making sure that it does actually add
Yeah,
value
correct.
in some way, and
Yeah,
very deliberately not leveraging AI to write that content because I mean, I can see it a mile away, so I'm sure everybody else can.
guilty.
And trying to, like, I'll still use it to help come up with ideas, and then I'll do a brain dump. I've actually been using voice more, just for brain dumping into,
Yeah,
I can just having it record it all, and then I'll scan through that list and decide. And maybe I'll even have it spin me up an outline, but the actual core content, I think it has to come from you.
yeah,
People can definitely sniff that out. Although, I don't know, some of the stuff you see being shared, I'm just like, are people stupid?
yeah. Or is it even a person sharing it, right?
Well, yeah, and that's the other side. And I've seen a few people that, I guess, the bigger ones who then they'll have people or AI bots responding for them and doing the engagement piece. I think it's the engagement piece that kills me the most because it can so easily just turn into a doom scroll of nonsense.
Yeah, or even the automated outreach, you can pick it from a mile away. It just drives me nuts. I mean, I know at some point we'll probably do it too. I shouldn't complain too much, but it's just annoying, man. someone reaches out, they come up with some bullshit reason that they want to connect. I already know what's coming, and I almost play game. Like, I wonder how many hours or days it's going to take till I get that direct message saying, "Hey, do you want to buy this?" You're like, "Fuck, bro." I, I knew when we connected. Why did I bother taking your connection? Accepting your connection request. So, that stuff's. It is a bit of a sesh fair, like you said.
But then, I mean, our audience probably that is a lot of where they seem to hang out, probably similar to your own as well. So that seems to be kind of the primary channel. I have started looking at others. TikTok scares the pants off me.
I've got some funny stories to TikTok for you, man.
Okay.
I built this one. We dipped our toes, right?
Yeah.
We had an explainer video, and like at the start of it, I just added a little bit, and the post was, we've only done one on TikTok. This is it. And it was like, safety forms are for boomers, and then it runs through our explainer video, right? Man, I have had leads. The most wild leads come from that. I'm talking extremely senior managers of a company probably worth $40 billion.
Wow.
Maybe more. We've had senior managers from like some of the biggest mining companies in the world reach out to us from TikTok from that video.
That's crazy.
And like, it's wild, dude. So we're doing more. We're dipping our toes deeper now. Can't ignore that.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the ones I've been thinking about, just because it does seem to have that. Like, it doesn't matter how many followers you have; it's just whether or not the content is actually good or not. So, and that's pretty impressive, I guess. I mean, safety isn't exactly a sexy space, so to be able to kind of get that reach and get huge leads off the back of that's massive,
bro. Sexy is an interesting term for us at the moment. So Stuart and I in the safety world, I think you could safely say, are probably more larrikin-like than most. I think that's the nice way of putting it, right? Like, definitely cheekier and definitely like to have a good time. So, and safety, it's compliance driven. It's not, like you said, it's not exactly the sexiest space, and it often attracts personalities that are the opposite of Stuart and I, fundamental. So we had a T-shirt made up recently, or maybe a little while ago now, but we wear it to conferences and wear it around town, and this basically says, "What's your safe word?" on it. And man, it is wild, dude. It should get so much attention. Like, just that tiny little play on words. And like, if people don't get it, they're probably not our customer. You know what I mean? Like, if you're offended by it, you're almost certainly not going to. And you'll be sitting there ordering a coffee or ordering a beer at a bar or something, and some dude will just say some random word next to you. It's been an epic T-shirt, epic marketing. I think we got asked for a T-shirt maybe 50 to 100 times at this conference we went to in the States recently.
That's so good. Yeah, you'll have to send me one.
Yeah, we got some even naughtier ones coming, but I don't want to ruin the surprise, so we'll save that for another day.
No, that's great, and I love that you were just thinking about it differently. That just
bit of fun.
And that's going to make the difference again from other players in that space that are kind of coming in a more traditional approach, right? Like, you do have to think differently to get the word out there and cut through the noise.
Definitely, man. And like, if like we're talking about like personal brand, like our personal brand probably is a little bit of the guy that got an innovative product and they got a great product and whatnot, but they're also like good fun, very authentic. Like, we genuinely pride ourselves on like being authentic. Like, we're not. If you don't want our product or you're not a customer, then so be it. It doesn't mean we can't go and have a beer or something, or we can't have a coffee and have a good time or whatever. So, the branding is on point for us, like being a bit cheeky and that sort of growth hack style marketing, whatever you want to call it. I think we're getting water bottles made with the same slogan on it. Because like, let's say, for example, you get a bottle made and it's got, I don't know, let's go with Alt Zero.
Yeah.
Because I do have a bottle from Alt Zero, ironically, from ages and ages ago. But like, okay, cool. So you gave me a bottle, now I'm just branding you for you at my table. Well done. Like, so the bottle doesn't get a look in. But what's your safe word would? Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a talking point around the desk, and like, who's to say that a COO or like a MD or someone doesn't walk past and go, "That's a pretty funky bottle," and then all of a sudden he's talking about wrist torque.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's perfect. So, uh, yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's so good. That's such an awesome strategy. I just wanted to touch a little bit. So you're out of Perth,
Yeah, I
um,
am. Yeah.
and I'm also a regional founder, just kind of on the outskirts of Byron. And I guess you're juggling tech and product, and then client needs. And how do you prevent burning out?
Oh,
I
bro,
mean, you're a fair few years in now.
I don't prevent it. Why would you ask this? Oh, it's a really good question. Look, I haven't handled it well, the burnout thing. If I had to be completely honest, I haven't. Um, my sleep's shocking. I grind my teeth now. I never did before. That there's a level of stress and anxiety that you take on when you take the level of risk that we took for this long as well. Not taking venture capital money or not going down that path or means I haven't had the opportunity to get some cash out of a secondary or anything like that, right? So I'm still leveraged to the hilt like most Australians with a mortgage and so on. So um, that side of it is really, really challenging. I took Friday off last week, so just a few days ago for the first, like just off the cuff was like, I need day off and taking it. I've got a new hobby. I try youth hobbies, but like I've got a motorbike that I gone midlife crisis, right? It's a derp, but I used to ride them when I was a young fella and missed it, so I gone. I went riding on Friday. I came home and I think I smiled for like hours and no reason. And I was like, oh man, I needed that. I didn't realize I needed it until I did realize. But mate, to be honest, I don't have a good answer here because I don't handle it well. Stuart's much the same. We are at the limit and have been for years doing this, but I still wake up on a Monday so fired up for work. It's wild. It's such a conundrum, or like I don't know what the word is to describe it, but there's not too many jobs where you feel this burnt out and this exhausted and anxious, stressed all the time. But I still wake up on a Monday so fired up, ready
Yeah.
to go, and I think it's incredible. It's not healthy, but it's incredible. I don't
Are
recommend.
you doing weekends as well, or do you take?
I try to take them. Like I was self-employed before this, so there's a longer period of stress that anyone self-employed knows what I'm talking about. The holidays don't exist.
Mhm.
Like they're not a thing unless you're lucky. So unless you've got to the point where you've got great people in their business who can manage it without you and so on, and then that manner control freak side of being a self-employed is very real. So I think like I can think of a couple of times in 10 years that I've genuinely felt like I had a holiday. And one of those was because there was no cellular signal. It was far like northwestern Australia on the Ningaloo Reef area, basically on a station, a cattle station or a sheep station. So that was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I do we have an annual camping trip over down at Crescent Head, and it's over Australia Day weekend, so you've got a few days anyway, and that's sort of 4 or 5 days with just no cell phone reception, no internet, no
Unbelievable.
nothing. It's just like that's it. It just kind of
Yeah,
resets me for the
yeah,
rest of
100%.
the
Right.
year.
It's a hard feeling to explain to someone
Yeah,
because you only get that release if you have that chronic other side of it at a truly chronic level. Like acute stress for a week, okay, cool. You know, everyone who's got a job has that. But cumulative chronic stress is so unhealthy for a start. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting topic, man. I think about this a lot. Stuart and I talk about it a lot. Like how you manage it. We travel a lot and it sounds exotic and people see us on LinkedIn like, oh, you're traveling again, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah. But bro, like some of those trips are 36 hours flying. And then I'm in there Stuart saw a customer. I think he was in the US for 30 hours. 30 hours, I think the number was there. He can correct me privately, but like it was some ludicrously small amount of time. And he'd flown from London
Oof.
to the US, rolled out an implementation. And like this is an implementation with a 60,000 employee customer. Right. So this is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is
It's a big, yeah,
multiples of most big companies. Like, if we look at, say, one of the big mining companies here in Australia, who's a really good customer of ours, I think they have 14,000 people, and they're big. They're a great customer. They're perfect size, big, blah blah. But like these guys are 4 times the size of that.
Yeah.
And US, so we travel to the US, Stu's there for 30 hours, then he flies home 30 plus hours to get home. And, like, that's not fun. That's exhausting. And so we used to do, like, I used to run a lot, used to cycle a lot. As I've got older, running's got a bit harder on the body, and really I'm just lazy, whatever, for whatever reason, I gotta stop. And then, but yeah, like forever trying to find something that will like give me that exit. And for me at the moment, it's motorbikes too. So it's a really long way of answering for you, but I've tried a lot.
Motorbikes is a good one. I don't have one. I've always toyed with the idea. I have to get it past the wife. Are you just trying to escape me and the kids?
I got very lucky. The whole bike situation came from selling another toy. And then using that money. But it is funny, man. Like you sort of spoke about it before, how you'll have these moments of ideas and stuff, and your voice recorded down to help or whatever. But like those noises in your head don't go away.
Yeah.
You how often will work. We might have a call at 6 or 7 in the morning with a US customer, and I might very well have a 10 p.m. call that same day with another US customer. And so, that's, what is that? That's 16, 17 hours a day. And in between there, you're managing everything else. And then you're supposed to sleep after that somehow. Yeah. And the call finishes at 11 p.m. And so the ability to exit that state of mind, the reason I find the motorbike thing so useful, this is without a doubt the most effective one for me, comfortably, is because you can't actually think about anything else other than the rock there and the tree that's coming at you at 70 kilometers an hour that's potentially 3 feet from you through that corner. Like,
yeah,
that there's no space for thinking about work. So it's really effective. It's wild.
Yeah, I did. Well, I was living in Sydney for a while, and I took up boxing, and that was similar. It's like you have to be in the moment because otherwise you're going to get punched in the face.
100%. Yeah, there's nothing like a little bit of like high risk, like managed, of course. I mean, I'm a safety guy.
But yeah,
but you know what I mean. Like I used to use trail running. It was like beautiful. I'd be out for 5 hours out in the trails running and absolutely cooking myself physically, but it gave you a mental space that you could process things and whatnot. But that's still thinking about work.
Yeah.
Whereas this is completely, you're not thinking about anything other than, can I do this faster and can I do it without crashing?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I guess it engages that kind of fight and flight or flight response. Yeah.
Just to be clear to everybody, I'm not riding on the road. I'm not breaking the law. This is all track specific. Before anyone jumps down my throat.
So if you were a new founder, we'll wrap this up shortly. A new founder starting out today, what's one piece of advice from your awesome journey that you would share?
Oh, it's a great question. The number one thing is like, how resilient are you willing to be? You don't have a choice fundamentally when you do a startup. You are forced to be as resilient as possible. We could have quit so many times across this journey and it's just said, this is just too hard. Like it's blah, blah, blah. But if you are resilient and you actually do have some validation from customers or whatever, that resilience is like the number one thing you need to bring. Otherwise you're toast. You won't last. I mean, that's the reason most, product market fit and lack of resilience, founders fundamentally running out of steam is just such a killer for a startup. Like I know that I talk too much on these things. Like I talk for a long time, but like we have one story that just personifies what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We, as I said, we kind of went probably seriously with this around 2019, 2020, right? Which was also COVID. So we'd got some money. I think we'd had basically $250,000. So we had a bit of a bit of money, but Stuart was earning more than that per annum, I'm sure, in his previous role, and so there's still a huge element of risk and status, that you're taking at this point. So we start and we are employed full time, and we're working on this thing, and we basically COVID just fucked us so hard. It was insane. Like we couldn't. I think Stu at one point we'd counted. It was either 9 or 12 cancelled flights due to COVID, like trying to get to see people or whatever. And when you're starting out on a product that no one really understood voice, it was so hard. You needed to be face to face. There's no Zoom for this shit, not at enterprise level, especially. And
I guess were sites closed as well?
Not in WA because of old mate McGowan and so on. But look, East Coast was brutal. Stuart was in Sydney at the time. Even him coming back to Perth was a nightmare because he was living in Sydney for quite a while before. And when we launched or went full time, he was still in Sydney and I was in Perth. But mate, we basically got down to like less than 10 grand in the bank. I think it was $7,000 or something. I think we had wages coming any day, but we knew also that we had a customer who needed to renew. And you want to talk resilience? Like I think I'd signed up to like Amazon in the previous weeks leading into this. We were trying to get this deal signed and we just couldn't get everybody in the room and so on. It was just really stressful. And I'd signed up to Amazon, like Uber driver, Didi, like every single one of the gig economies I could think of, I'd signed up to. I was like, we are so close. You can't give up now, right? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this customer ends up signing up to 3 years and paid up front that week or within 10 days. And that literally was the moment that it just grew like exponentially from that moment.
Wow.
And so like when you think about resilience and like that's years of stress, like before we got that deal. And that was our first big multi-year, like proper enterprise, like proper deal. We'd had heaps of like smaller deals, but this is 6-figure deal, like good money.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking at the time, like I was so close to giving up. Like,
did you do any Uber runs?
No, I never did. So I'd find out like it was so terrifying, man. Like the risk and stress, and then just thinking like, even thinking like, what if I get an insolvency thing against my name as a director? What if I go into administration or maybe not an insolvency, but like I go into administration, it's gonna make it really fucking hard to have another business and not really hard, but you know what I mean? There are ramifications to failure that failure is glorified in VC world and startup land, but there are ramifications. It's not as simple as I failed, I'll go again. Like there's shit that goes with it. And I was really fearful of that. And then, mate, I can't even tell you the highs when that CEO.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. How did you celebrate?
Mate, believe it or not, we didn't. And this is the crazy thing. Not that long after, we then signed a huge deal. And we always said we'll celebrate and blah, blah, and we never did. And we still don't. So we're now, I can think of maybe 1 week ago, we had this conversation, like we are celebrating. Or, and actually, ironically, or whatever, it's actually not our deal that we're celebrating. So we have a deal that's like really close. It's from one of our staff. If that deal goes through, that's the trick. Finally, want to roll, like.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we've been pretty historically bad as that as well. I think it's just because you're so in it that
100%.
Like just taking that time out to do it, it's more like, well, on to the next and on to the next.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm looking for growth. That deal, as far as I'm concerned, that is like next. Like,
yeah,
it's so hard. Yeah, it's actually probably my biggest regret, if I'm honest, is not celebrating the wins when we had them, when they felt raw, like more raw.
Yeah.
Those first couple are as raw as it gets.
Yeah, for sure.
And after that, it starts to feel so normalized that you don't feel much anymore. It's a bit of a shame.
It definitely is. Maybe that's the other lesson then for...
I think that's probably the better advice. Yeah,
it's the more uplifting advice, like count the wins.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Celebrate them in the moment.
Yeah. Forget your resilience. Once you've got past that.
Well, they're both great.
Just go send it down the pub with your best mate, who might happen to be your founder, which is even better. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right, I got one more question for you then. So I mean, I'm quite into my music. Kind of helps me get in the zone. Is there an album or a track that kind of helps you get centered when you're trying to get into deep work?
Yeah. Huge fan of the old Boy and Bear, the Australian band. Big fan of listening to those guys. That gets me into a good mood pretty much no matter what I'm doing.
Is there a specific track that kind of gets you?
But I'm pretty lucky. Look, I love music. I play a bit of music. I'm a big fan, but I'm hopeless at remembering the names of songs or about, like, so terrible at trivia, but could probably pick up a guitar and play the song. Like,
What sort of stuff do you play?
Acoustic guitar, 99% of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
But interestingly, yeah, one of my best mates from like childhood, 12-year-old sort of, really best mates, and just a gun at making playlists. So I just riff on his playlist.
Yeah.
I don't even have to think about it,
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
What about you? I want to know yours.
Me, I got asked this the other day. I think Deftones' Be Quiet and Drive is definitely a classic, but for getting into the zone, I tend to listen to like real, just aggressive stuff. Whether it's like aggressive metal or hip hop or UK grime or drum and bass, it doesn't really matter so long as it's like
aggressive. I did that.
And then my wife will come in and just be like, "What is happening in here?" Just like, what went wrong? I'm like, no, this is just
like, what went wrong? Where do I start?
Yeah. I'll give you a list.
Classic.
So yeah,
mate. I have one other question. If I can ask you one really quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Where can I get kind merch? That Star Wars related T-shirt, but the OG is still one of my favorite T-shirts of all time.
Yeah.
I want
don't know
more.
if we have any new one that's been made, but I'll get on
Is
to
Rob
Ross.
making them or what? Is he doing it?
Yeah, it's usually if we're gonna go and do an event or something, we'll put some together for that. We haven't done any for a bit, but there's a few conferences and things coming up. So yeah, I'll have a word. I'll get one sorted.
So are you saying that T-shirt I should frame it, keep it somewhere safe because you're not going to have any more? Is that?
I think that was the one-off. That one, yeah. I don't know if we're making any more of those. Yeah.
I've probably had 20 or so people pull me up and say that is a badass T-shirt.
Yeah, right. Okay, maybe we'll have to do a reprint.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cool.
Awesome. All right, David, thanks so much for coming on. It's been awesome. Thanks for sharing your story. And this has been More Founders Show. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also visit our website at morefounders.show for all previous episodes and more information about the show. Thanks again. See you in the next one.